UFO once captivated audiences with its dramatic sci-fi universe, where humanity faced off against alien threats. But behind the glamour of its talented cast lay personal tragedies, from painful divorces to haunting, unexpected deaths. Let's look back on the journey of these legendary stars and honor the legacy they left behind. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's go. Ed Bishop as Commander Ed Straker. George Victor Bishop, born on June 11, 1932, in Brooklyn, New York, was an American actor best known under the stage name Ed Bishop, made famous for his role as Commander Ed Straker in the 1970 series UFO. When he took on the role at age 38, he wasn't just the lead actor. He was the heart and soul of the show, a stern, cold, and determined leader of SHADO, the organization tasked with combating alien invaders. But behind the glow of the spotlight was a life filled with hidden pain. Ed Bishop was married 3 times, but only his second marriage to Hillary Preen lasted, and even then it was a mix of joy and deep heartbreak. After 34 years together, they divorced in 1996. Not long after, Bishop fell into a prolonged emotional crisis, lingering depression, isolation, and a sense of disorientation in an industry that had once applauded him. Before those wounds could heal, tragedy struck again. His only son, Daniel, died in a car accident in 1988 when he was just 20 years old. That loss was like the final knife to a father already worn down by life. While many remember him as the stoic Commander Straker, Bishop yearned for a long-lasting career that matched his talent and strong theatrical foundation. Despite appearances in major productions like Kubrick's 2001, A Space Odyssey, and voicing Detective Philip Marlowe on BBC Radio, he often felt trapped between fading fame and a harsh reality. At one point, he even staged a protest against war by disguising himself as General Pinochet to infiltrate an arms fair. In his final years, Bishop lived quietly in West Molesey with his third wife, photographer Jane Skinner. He continued to appear at science fiction conventions and took on small radio roles, but his health steadily declined. On June 8, 2005, just 3 days before his 73rd birthday, he died from a chest infection while being treated for leukemia. Bishop was buried at St. Lawrence's churchyard next to his son's grave, beneath a headstone engraved with a peace symbol and a touching lyric from the song Red River Valley. Gabriel Drake as Lieutenant Gay Ellis. Gabriel Drake, born on March 30, 1944, in Lahore, British India, was a standout actress in the 1970 series UFO, where she played Lieutenant Gay Ellis, the purple-wigged, cool-eyed commander of SHADO's moon base. When she took on the role at age 26, Drake quickly became a sci-fi icon of British television. But behind that powerful role was a woman carrying many unseen wounds. After UFO ended, Gabrielle chose bold roles in Britain's early 1970s erotic films like Suburban Wives, Au Pair Girls, and Commuter Husbands. These roles earned her a nude starlet label, causing her to be passed over for larger projects and pushing her into a long struggle to reclaim her image. Alongside career pressures, she endured a short, emotionally painful marriage, leaving her with feelings of loneliness and self-doubt. Though she never had children, Drake devoted much of her life to preserving the legacy of her late brother, singer Nick Drake, who died from an overdose at age 26. The shock of that loss left a lasting sorrow in Gabrielle's heart. She worked tirelessly to honor his memory, even publishing the memoir Nick Drake, remembered for a while, and accepting a prestigious Hall of Fame award on his behalf in 2018. From the 1980s through the 2000s, Drake shifted toward theater, performing in classic plays at the Royal Exchange in Manchester and theaters across the UK. However, she never achieved the breakout success her early potential promised. Life off stage was spent restoring Wenlock Abbey, a historic home in Shropshire, with her second husband, artist Louis de Wet, who passed away in 2018. Since then, she has lived a quiet life, far from the cameras and glitz she once belonged to. In 2025, when Gabrielle Drake was 81 years old, she continued to reside at Wenlock Abbey, enjoying a peaceful retirement, surrounded by those she loves. Michael Billington as Colonel Paul Foster. Michael Billington, born on December 24, 1941 in Blackburn, Lancashire, made a powerful impression as Colonel Paul Foster in UFO, 1970. When he took on the role at age 28, he portrayed a brave, intuitive Shadow officer, Commander Straker's right-hand man. The role made Billington a science fiction heartthrob of the era, but sadly, that peak was one he never surpassed. After UFO, Billington gained some attention with roles in The Wundin Line, Edward VII, and Spearhead. Still, the shadow of Paul Foster loomed large, making it difficult for him to break free. In the 1980s, he moved to the U.S. seeking new opportunities, but only landed minor roles, like Count Dardenne in The Quest. His career went into steep decline, and he gradually disappeared from screens. Billington's personal life was equally troubled. Before marriage, he had a deep 8-year relationship with Barbara Broccoli, daughter of Bond film producer Albert Broccoli. But it ended. In 1988, he married actress Catherine Christoph. The marriage lasted only a decade before ending in divorce, leaving behind a son whom Billington rarely saw. After the split, he lived a withdrawn life and reportedly struggled with mild depression, according to close friends. In 2005, when he was 63 years old, Michael Billington passed away from cancer after a long and quiet battle. His death came just days before the passing of his UFO co-star Ed Bishop, bringing a somber close to the golden age they had once shared. Wanda Ventham as Colonel Virginia Lake. Wanda Ventham was born on August 5, 1935, in Brighton. When she was 35 years old, she played Colonel Virginia Lake in UFO, 1970, a sharp, capable strategist within Shadow. The role not only established her as a force in sci-fi television, but also elevated the image of strong women on British screens. However, behind the spotlight, Wanda's personal life bore cracks that were hard to mend. Her first marriage to James Tabernacle ended after 17 years, leaving her with a daughter and a deeply wounded heart. Divorce wasn't just the end of a relationship. It marked the beginning of long, lonely years, during which she juggled single motherhood and tried to sustain a career in an industry notoriously unkind to middle-aged women. At the time, many directors she had once worked with began turning away as TV shifted toward younger, more glamorous faces. Her greatest solace came in 1976 when she married actor Timothy Carlton. They had a son, Benedict Cumberbatch, who would later become an international star. Still, Wanda spent many years living in the shadow of others' fame. With her acting career slowing down, she mostly appeared in small roles, like playing mothers in Coupling, Men Behaving Badly, and Only Fools and Horses. Family members have shared that she experienced bouts of mild depression due to feeling forgotten after decades of dedication to her craft. Fortunately, a turning point came in 2014 when she and her husband were cast as Sherlock Holmes's parents in the hit series Sherlock, acting alongside their real-life son. It was not only a rare on-screen meeting of 3 generations, but also a long-overdue moment of recognition for Wanda. As of 2025, when Wanda Ventham was 89 years old, she had quietly withdrawn from the spotlight. She now lives peacefully in a historic home, far from the cameras and media attention. George Sewell as Colonel Alec Freeman. George Sewell was born on August 31, 1924. When he was 46 years old, he played Colonel Alec Freeman in UFO, 1970, Shadow's second-in-command, a tough, loyal figure who stood firmly behind Commander Straker in battles against alien threats. The role not only cemented his place in British sci-fi history, but also led to a string of lead roles in detective series. Yet behind the stern face and rugged demeanor was a soul marked by sorrow. Coming from a working-class background, Sewell had held various odd jobs before finding his way to the stage at age 35, a late and difficult start. He had been married once, but the brief union ended quietly, leaving behind an emotional void that lingered for the rest of his life. Close friends noted that he lived with mild depression for years, often avoiding the media and retreating into solitude behind the scenes. That sense of isolation only deepened with age, especially as the film industry stopped creating roles for people like him. On April 2, 2007, George Sewell passed away at age 82 after battling cancer. He left the world as quietly as he had lived, no fanfare, no headlines, but with a powerful legacy in the hearts of those who followed his work. He may not have received medals or golden statues, but he remained the embodiment of a classic kind of actor, resilient, devoted, and steadfast in his identity, no matter how unkind life became. Aisha Brow as Lieutenant Aisha Johnson. Aisha Brow was born on November 12, 1948, in London. When she was 21 years old, she portrayed Lieutenant Aisha Johnson in UFO, 1970, a calm, beautiful, and efficient shadow officer who appeared in 20 episodes, always recognizable by her signature A necklace. But even before that role, Aisha had already made history as a teenage pop star with her own TV show, Lift Off with Aisha, at age 20. A rare achievement for a woman of color at the time. However, that vibrant career was paired with a tumultuous personal life. Her first marriage to producer Chris Brow, who was both her manager and husband, ended under intense emotional strain. She later had a public engagement to musician Roy Wood, but they broke up for undisclosed reasons. Her next marriage to actor Steve Alder also fell apart. Aisha had no children from these relationships and endured extended periods of depression due to the emptiness and repeated emotional failures. Her acting career slowly faded, with minor roles in Gotcha, 1985, and Demolition Man, 1993, but none powerful enough to reignite her stardom. She eventually pivoted to interior design and inspirational speaking in the U.S. under the name Aisha de Havilland, a personal reinvention after fame. In 2025, when Aisha was 76 years old, she lived in Grantham, Lincolnshire, near her mother. After many years of solitude and absence from public life, she was honored at the 2024 Asian Media Awards for her pioneering contributions to music television. Dolores Mantes as Lieutenant Nina Barry. Dolores Brenda Mantes was born on October 17, 1936, in Liverpool. When she was 34 years old, she played Lieutenant Nina Barry in UFO, 1970, a calm, intelligent shadow officer who stood out with her bold purple wig. The role made her one of the few women of color at the time to earn a prominent part in British sci-fi. But behind that spotlight, Dolores lived a quiet life full of emotional scars and disillusionment. Her career began by chance. She was discovered while visiting a music agent and was cast as a student in Sapphire, 1959, a film about the Afro-Caribbean community. Though she had no formal acting training, she made a strong impression and soon appeared in shows like The Avengers, Danger Man, The Human Jungle, and Randall and Hopkirk, Deceased. Yet, as a woman of color in a biased industry, she was repeatedly cast in exotic-looking or decorative side roles with little depth or development. By 1972, after her role as Indigo Jones in the Onedin line, Dolores vanished from television. Part of the reason was frustration with being typecast. Another part was her decision to marry businessman Robert Harding in 1976. They lived privately and had no children. In the following years, she left the arts entirely, severed ties with the media, and drifted away from former colleagues. During this time, she reportedly experienced mild depression, especially when she no longer felt acknowledged by the industry that had once defined her youth and fame. On November 30, 2012, she passed away at age 76 after a brief illness. Her death was not widely reported by major news outlets, and it took years before fans began to remember her name with the regret of a once iconic figure lost to time. Antonia Ellis as Lieutenant Joan Harrington. Antonia Ellis was born on April 30th, 1944, in Newport, Isle of Wight. When she was 26 years old, she played Lieutenant Joan Harrington in UFO, 1970, one of the key female officers stationed at Shadow Moon Base. Smart, composed, and disciplined, Harrington became a quiet yet enduring symbol of modern womanhood in the sci-fi genre and remains a fan favorite to this day. After UFO, Antonia continued her film career with critically acclaimed roles in The Boyfriend, 1971, and Mahler, 1974. But just as her career was gaining momentum, her personal life unraveled. A deeply emotional marriage to a fellow stage actor ended in divorce, leaving her not only heartbroken, but also shouldering the burden of raising a child alone while trying to navigate a demanding and often unforgiving industry. Antonia went through a personal crisis, battling the dual roles of single mother and artist, unsure of her footing. The pain deepened in the 1980s when a close friend and fellow performer, reportedly a co-star in a musical production, died unexpectedly. That loss led her to withdraw from public life, turning down many offers to return to the screen. In a rare interview years later, she admitted, "The entertainment industry drained my identity. I no longer knew who I was outside the roles I played." As of 2025, when Antonia Ellis is 81 years old, she lives reclusively in the south of England, having completely stepped away from show business. To those who loved UFO, she remains Joan Harrington, not just a steadfast officer, but a quiet icon of a generation of artists who endured and sacrificed in silence. Władek Szabal as Dr. Doug Jackson. Władek Szabal, born Władysław Rudolf Zbigniew Szabal, entered the world on March 12, 1923, in Zgierz, Poland. When he was 47 years old, he portrayed Dr. Doug Jackson in UFO, 1970, Shadow's enigmatic and incisive psychologist. The character, with his sharp intellect and chilly demeanor, mirrored Szabal's own life, one shaped by war, captivity, and harsh decisions made to survive. His youth wasn't spent on stage, but inside Nazi concentration camps, where he was imprisoned at age 16 for resisting the occupation. He escaped twice, was recaptured, and tortured. After the war, he built a career in Poland, but was forced to leave in 1958 due to political conflict with the communist regime. Upon immigrating to the UK, he struggled to make ends meet, teaching acting for income until gaining recognition in villain roles, most notably as Kronstein in From Russia with Love, 1963, a part that came through his friendship with Sean Connery. But the role also marked the beginning of his typecasting as a bad guy. Throughout his career, Szabal appeared in more than 60 film and television productions, from Smiley's People and Shogun to Red Dawn. Most were supporting roles, cunning schemers, sinister adversaries, cold scientists. His rare award-winning performance came in Supernatural, 1977, where he played a creepy innkeeper with life-sized puppets. Though respected by peers, he never secured a long-term lead role, what he once described as the price you pay for carrying the face of a haunted past. His private life was equally complex. While he had a deep romance with Polish actress Irina Eklerovna, he never married. In England, he lived as a bachelor and had relationships with both men and women, though none became lasting commitments. He grew increasingly private, reclusive, and detached from public life. Władek Szabal died in London on October 16, 1992, at age 69, due to a ruptured aortic aneurysm. He was buried at Putney Vale Cemetery. In the memory of viewers, he remains the cold, cerebral doctor. Jackson, one of the most haunting and layered actors European cinema ever produced. Anuska Hempel as Tamara Paulson. Anuska Hempel was born in December 1941 in New Zealand. When she joined UFO in 1970 at age 29, she played Tamara Paulson, a graceful and composed shadow communications officer. Though her screen time was brief, she made a strong impression with her elegance and mystery, traits that would come to define both her image and her future. Few knew the glamorous exterior masked a hauntingly poor childhood. Raised in hardship and growing up in Cronulla, a modest seaside suburb south of Sydney, she spent her youth around her father's auto garages. In 1962, with just £10 in her pocket, she left Australia for England. She began acting in minor horror and action films, with roles in Scars of Dracula, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and Black Snake, quickly becoming one of Britain's B-movie screen goddesses. Off-screen, life was less kind. Her first marriage to journalist Constantine Hempel ended tragically when he died in a car crash in 1973. The loss devastated her, but also marked a turning point. She shifted into hospitality and interior design. In 1978, she opened Blake's Hotel, the first luxury boutique hotel in London, which became a magnet for global elites and creatives. Her refined aesthetic and spatial artistry earned her a place on Architectural Digest's list of the world's top 100 designers. But success didn't guarantee happiness. After a brief marriage to theater producer Bill Kenwright, she wed billionaire Mark Weinberg. The union, though seemingly stable, wasn't without silent cracks. Hempel once admitted that balancing love and ambition was always a struggle, especially when a childhood of scarcity made her feel she had to earn her worth through perfection. As of 2025, at age 83, Anushka Hempel still lives in London and rarely appears in public. To many, she is a symbol of timeless elegance. But behind that gleam lies a woman who has lived through solitude, loss, and emotional scars that never fully fade. Lois Maxwell as Miss Holland. Lois Maxwell was born on February 14, 1927, in Kitchener, Ontario. In 1970, when she was 43 years old, she appeared in the sci-fi series UFO as Miss Holland, a dependable SHADO operative. Maxwell brought to the role a cool professionalism honed from years spent on screen beside some of cinema's most famous spies. Yet behind that calm and clever persona was a life marked by lingering wounds. Her seemingly happy marriage to television director Peter Marriott turned tragic when he died of a heart attack in 1973, leaving Maxwell a widow raising two young children with limited finances. Despite once winning a Golden Globe for Most Promising Newcomer, her career was largely defined by small roles and unpredictable income. Even in the James Bond films, where she played the iconic Miss Moneypenny, she was paid only £100 per shooting day and had to buy her own wardrobe, a shocking truth for a global film symbol. In her later years, Maxwell lived quietly in Perth, Australia, cared for by her son. After battling colorectal cancer from 2001, Lois Maxwell passed away at Fremantle Hospital on September 29, 2007, at the age of 80. Georgina Moon as Lieutenant Sylvia Howell. Georgina Moon was born in 1950 in Hendon, Middlesex, England. When she was 20 years old, she played Lieutenant Sylvia Howell in UFO, 1970, a young, intelligent, and dedicated shadow technician. Georgina made an impression with her captivating looks and natural charm, quickly becoming a familiar face on British television in the early 1970s. Her acting career continued with appearances in Up Pompeii and You're Only Young Twice, which brought her moderate fame. But the spotlight didn't last. By the 1980s, Georgina began to fade from screens as roles dwindled and shifting TV trends made it difficult for her to reclaim her place. Her personal life was equally turbulent. Her first marriage to Robert Phillips, whom she married in 1969, quietly ended. A later marriage also ended in divorce. With no children, Georgina faced growing loneliness as she entered middle age. Personal losses, including the sudden death of a close family member, led her to retreat further from public life. She stopped attending events or giving interviews, choosing instead a life of solitude far from the limelight. As of 2025, Georgina Moon is 75 years old. No longer active in show business, she lives quietly in the English countryside. Once the daughter of actor George Moon, she now lives like a silent shadow, a forgotten symbol of a golden era of British television. David Warbeck as skydiver captain. David Warbeck was born on November 17, 1941 in Christchurch, New Zealand. When he was 28 years old, he appeared in the sci-fi series UFO, 1970, as the captain of the Skydiver, a brave, stoic figure tasked with defending Earth from alien threats. Warbeck's good looks and commanding presence left a lasting impression. However, his career became typecast in secondary roles, often in exploitation, action, and low-budget horror films across Europe. Though he was once considered a potential replacement for Roger Moore as James Bond, that opportunity never materialized. Warbeck later said he was paid to stay ready in silence, prepared to step in should Bond vacate the role, but was ultimately passed over for being too old. That disappointment lingered throughout his career, branding him as a forgotten icon in the film industry. His personal life was filled with quiet melancholy. Though married to his wife Lois since 1965 and father to a daughter, Warbeck often spoke of feeling disconnected and distant from his family due to constant filming abroad. In his final years, he lived in Hampstead, London, spending decades restoring a historic mansion, as if trying to rebuild the pieces of his life. On July 23, 1997, David Warbeck passed away in London from cancer, just 3 weeks after completing the commentary track for The Beyond, one of his most beloved films. He died at age 55, carrying with him unfulfilled dreams and the sorrow of a career that never reached the heights his talent deserved. Al Mancini as Lieutenant Andy Conroy. Alfred Benito. Al Mancini was born on November 13, 1932 in Steubenville, Ohio. When he was 37 years old, he played Lieutenant Andy Conroy in the sci-fi series UFO, 1970. A loyal, courageous Shadow officer. In the role, Mancini embodied calm strength and dedication, becoming a symbol of duty in the battle against extraterrestrial threats. It was one of his most memorable TV roles and marked a career peak during his time in the UK. But behind the spotlight was a life marked by hardship. Raised in poverty in Ohio, Mancini had to work twice as hard to pursue his artistic dreams. After graduating from Kent State University, he moved to London, where he not only acted but also wrote for the satirical show That Was the Week That Was. While successful in Europe, his personal life was tumultuous. Mancini experienced 2 failed marriages, one with an actress who suffered from a mental disorder, forcing him to juggle emotional struggles with the responsibilities of being a single father. Returning to the U.S. in the mid-1970s, he continued acting in supporting roles, notably in Falling Down, 1993, and Miller's Crossing, 1990. Alongside acting, he began teaching at the Beverly Hills Playhouse, a journey that lasted over 3 decades, during which he inspired hundreds of students. The greatest sorrow came in his final years when Mancini was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, a condition that gradually stole his memory, identity, and the voice he had once cherished. On November 12, 2007, just 1 day before his 75th birthday, he passed away in London, Ohio. He left quietly, carrying with him a legacy of moving performances and a life both brilliant and scarred. The journey of the UFO, 1970 to 1971, cast is a testament to both the brilliance and the tragedies behind the spotlight, leaving behind memories that remain vivid in the hearts of fans. Which character from UFO was your favorite? Which story left the deepest impression on you? Share your thoughts and join us as we uncover even more secrets from this unforgettable series.